Welcome to the show. I'm Jason Whitlock, and I'll tell you why the NFL could have the next Deflategate on its hands.
And I'm Colin Cowherd, and I'll tell you why I already know how the Mayweather-McGregor fight is gonna end. Speak for yourself starts right now.
McGregor flat on his back?
Could be an option.
Carried out of the arena. All right, hello and welcome. We're joined today by a couple of Super Bowl champs, Greg Jennings and Seth Joyner. Let's start in the NFL, where the conflict between the league and the NFL Players Union over Ezekiel Elliott's suspension is heating up. Yesterday, the NFL accused the union of leaking information to smear the victim of Elliott's alleged domestic violence. But the NFLPA denied the charge, saying, quote, "The public statement issued on behalf of every NFL owner is a lie." The NFLPA categorically denies the accusations made in this statement. "We know the league office has a history of being exposed for its lack of credibility. They should be ashamed for stooping to a new low." Colin, a showdown over the appeal is looming. Should the league be concerned this will become the next Deflategate?
I think it will become the next Deflategate. Since 2013, I looked it up today, there has been an overreaching story, and they have not hurt ratings. So, yes, it's going to become Deflategate, and no, I don't think it will hurt the product. He is one player. I know he's a Cowboy. I know he's a star. This league has shown an ability, outside of occasional political election year roadblocks, it has shown an ability to overcome these big, ugly distractions.
This isn't about ratings. To me, this is about a relationship between ownership and the players, and about the ability to conduct business in the best interest of the league and both parties. I've always felt Jim Upshaw was unfairly maligned as the head of the union. Always felt. He worked in partnership to build the league. And the league is worth $12, $13 billion, or generates $12, $13 billion every year. I'm concerned that as more of these events happen, from Deflategate to this, the acrimony between the union and ownership is just going to spill out and continue to make it hard to do great business in the NFL. So it's not about ratings, it's just about being on the same page and moving together as a group to understand billionaires are helping guys become millionaires, millionaires are helping billionaires stay rich.
You don't think the players appreciate what the league is doing for them?
There's some of that, but I'm not sure if either side right now appreciates either side the way that they should.
The NFL is like, you know, the banks back in 2008. It's too big to fail. It's too big to fail. We talk about the corporate, you know, workings of the NFL and how the NFL is set up on patriotism and all of that kind of stuff. Let's stop for a second and look at football for what it really is. The owners have figured out a way to take a gladiator game and monetize it hugely. And the players play a role in making some money and making money for the league, and vice versa with the owners. The only difference when you look at football and gladiators back in the Roman days is that the victor doesn't get to chop the loser's head off. There is no thumbs up, thumbs down. So it's never going to stop, because the public's desire for the violence in the game and the fact that you don't have 162, 82 and 82. You don't have 7-game series. You got one and dones. Listen, man, 8 home games a year.
So this becoming Deflategate, it doesn't bother you, no concern.
It's not going. It might become that, but it's not going to stop the machine, because I'm telling you, the machine is too big. Yeah. It's too big to fail.
I mean, honestly, what did Deflategate do? The ratings were up. It didn't hurt the mechanism.
It helped them.
Honestly.
I think it's definitely going to be, I think it's going to be bigger than Deflategate, simply because we're dealing with the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones. What surprised me more than anything was his comments yesterday in being so subtle and so quiet. He didn't say much. He said, you know what, I want my feet to make sure that my feet are on the ground firm before I speak out. Well, number one, he already spoke out too soon before, so it benefits him to just hush for a moment and let things play out. But I think that's the bigger issue here. Jerry Jones' influence and impact that he has on this league, and with Roger Goodell, his relationship, I think that creates a huge tension there from owners to even Goodell, upper management when it comes to the NFL. I think that's the bigger issue here. When you're talking about a Robert Kraft and Tom Brady, they handle things the right way. They've always done that. We obviously know he has great influence. He has a great relationship with Roger Goodell, but at the same time, he's not as outspoken. He's not going to speak his mind publicly and then tell you how he feels behind closed doors. And I think that's the issue that the NFL will run into when it comes to Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones.
Listen, I hear everybody say, oh, the machine's going to be fine. What I hear you saying, Greg, what I agree with, the inner workings of the machines are about to get crossways with each other in a real way. Yeah. And again, we haven't even added the element of this thing is going to spin racial. Again, you're already seeing people take Ezekial Elliott's a black player, the accuser is a white woman. People are uncomfortable. Again, I didn't even think about the element you're talking about, that I'm thinking about the players in a dispute with Goodell. You're talking about, no, Goodell getting more at odds with powerful owners.
Do you not think that that this $12 to $15 billion industry will not work that out? They will work that out.
I'm not saying that they won't work it out, but there will be a rift there. But there will definitely be a rift.
That's okay, though.
You're very good with, and I don't know if you're not, but you know history well. Listen, Pete Rozelle, Al Davis. Players have always had a distrust of the owners, and there's always been one or two owners that were Mavericks.
You're making a good point.
I mean, my entire life, listen,
they hated each other.
Disharmony in this league and distrust of ownership goes way back. And I think this is just the latest with high-profile people.
The only thing I think all of this does is it makes the NFL that much more attractive because it draws more eyes to all the things that's going on around it, and that's a benefit to the league.
Yeah.
This is the Speak for Yourself podcast. I am your host, Jason McIntyre. Before we move on, I want to tell you that this podcast is sponsored by Barbasol. The biggest thing to happen to Barbasol since shaving cream is also the only thing to happen to Barbasol since shaving cream. Introducing new Barbasol razors. The brand America trusts for a close, comfortable shave now has premium disposable razors. Barbasol's close shave technology on every razor means you get an advanced pivoting head and ultra-thin open flow blades. The Ultra 6 Plus razor also features a 7th blade, specifically designed to style those tricky areas like under the nose, sideburns, and beard. Visit Barbasol.com and get a $2 savings coupon and see for yourself why Barbasol razors are the #1 new disposable razors out there. You're looking good, America. You're shaving with Barbasol. Now let's get back to the show.
To Cleveland, where a report emerged yesterday that LeBron is, quote, 100% leaving the Cavs after this year. Now, our friend Chris Broussard says he spoke with LeBron's inner circle, who denied the report and said LeBron hasn't made any decision yet. Now, Rick Bucher, NBA reporter, suggests another reason that could help push LeBron out the door, tweeting, quote, worth noting in light of LeBron's remarks about the president. Cavs owner Dan Gilbert reportedly donated $750,000 to his inauguration. Whitlock, will LeBron leave the Cavs because of Gilbert's ties to Trump?
I think this is a fascinating point that Rick Bucher made and Doug Gottlieb made in terms of LeBron has been lacing some tweets about Charlottesville and other things with anti-Trump comments. And he's jumped right into the middle of the Trump conversation. And I think this helps explain it in terms of, did Dan Gilbert, when he cut that check for Trump, did he realize who his #1 most valuable employee was and where he stood on this presidential issue? This is fascinating and could legitimately be at the heart of the reason LeBron is leaving Cleveland. And again, let's say you're LeBron James and you're exiting Cleveland for the second time. And you get to say, you know why? Because this idiot owner supported this idiot president that I don't like and you don't like. Who's going to blame LeBron?
I'm going to unpack something here. You guys, I'll try to make this quick. When LeBron left for Miami, never got out until the end. When LeBron left for Cleveland, never got out until the end. All this stuff comes out, Chris Sheraton a year before. LeBron's leaving, and he's softening the blow. When LeBron doesn't want stuff out, it doesn't get out. The letter came out. We're like, what the? Okay, so suddenly this is out. So if LeBron wants out, he's softening the blow. LeBron can say, remember that first letter, the racial coding? Dan Gilbert, Charlottesville, this guy? Can I not make the argument that LeBron, the Trump, is another opportunity for us to look at LeBron when he leaves and go, hey, I don't blame the guy. I don't blame LeBron. Is this crazy?
Some will say that.
See, I look at it in a couple different ways. When it comes, LeBron is very smart. And to your point, has he kept things close to breast? Absolutely. But I don't think he knows that the way he did it the first time leaving Cleveland for Miami was completely wrong. He will never do that again. But LeBron wants his idol is Magic Johnson. He looks up to Magic Johnson. What is Magic Johnson doing? How influential is he with that Laker organization?
Huge.
Before they made him and offered him the position he's currently in now. That's what LeBron is looking to. And his greatest asset or his greatest tie is with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Why would he burn that bridge with Dan Gilbert? Now, these comments, absolutely. He was a huge Hillary Clinton supporter. He was outspoken about that. We all knew that. And so I think the comments that he's making, I think that in what if it is true, what Dan Gilbert was able to give to the Trump inauguration, then I think that will create in the back of his. But he would never say that because he's a businessman.
He said it through Rick Bucher.
Who gave Rick Bucher that?
Yeah.
Listen, I think we're making too much of this. I think that the whole Dan Gilbert Trump connection, it probably irks LeBron James a little bit. But LeBron James is leaving Cleveland for the same reason he left the first time. Not enough players to help him cement his legacy as one of the top 3 players in the history of the game, okay? When this season was over, and I watched every game in the finals, and I looked at that Cleveland Cavalier team, I said the only way that this team can compete with the Golden State Warriors is to get Paul George. Paul George went somewhere else. So now, what is he going to do? He's contractually stuck there one more year, okay? But cap-wise, they're handcuffed.
Yeah.
They can't do anything. They can't improve the basketball team, okay? So for the same reason that he got up out of Cleveland the first time, he'll be getting up out of Cleveland next year for the same reason because he knows that he's only got 2, 3, maybe 4 years max left, and he's not going to sit in Cleveland and flounder in Cleveland for 3, 4, 5 more years.
So you think Trump is overrated? That's the reason.
No. I think don't you agree? I agree with his point. He's leaving for basketball and winning reasons. I think we agree that he's going to use Trump as the excuse to soften the blow.
I do.
And it's like House of Cards. Everything has become political. I don't know if you've seen the show House of Cards on Netflix, but again, the reason is what Seth is talking about.
Mm-hmm. Basketball.
But to tell the fans in Cleveland and the media across the country that will sell this to the hill. You think ESPN and all the left-wing reporters couldn't sell this narrative? Oh, he really wanted to stay, but Gilbert gave that money to Trump.
Listen.
To go.
I've always told you. I think legends like Jay-Z, Michael Jordan, LeBron, Spielberg have 3 stages. Look at how talented I am. Platinum records, titles, mogul stage. Once you hit the mogul stage, like LeBron, brand is really important. Protecting the brand. If LeBron leaves, to your point, he doesn't want to get dinged. Mm-hmm. He wants the narrative to be, can you blame him? Welcome back. Seth Joyner's here. Super Bowl champ Eric Davis. You were in that Super Bowl, too. Let's move to the National Football League, where national anthem protests are continuing to stir controversy after a new round of player protests during the first week of the preseason. 49er general manager, our friend John Lynch, said yesterday he is not a fan of demonstrations.
And I think this game brings people together. So I think personally when I see that, I think that's divisive, and I understand guys see things that they're not happy, and they have that right. And I think we'll always respect people's rights. That doesn't mean I believe that. I believe that this game should actually be celebrated for what it is. I think a tremendous unifier for our country and for what the way things should be.
All right, Whitlock, our anthem protest divisive to a locker room?
Yeah, I certainly have made my point clear that I agree with John Lynch. I think this is divisive. I don't think it's healthy. I don't think it's proper for sports.
Okay, this is something that drives me crazy about the media. John Lynch, Stanford guy, said it's divisive. The media has its agenda set. They have no interest in actually listening to what people say. Divisive, tending to cause disagreement. How can you deny, by that terminology, right, description, the Game of Thrones is divisive?
Right.
He simply said it's divisive. Hey, media, look the word up. Of course it is. We're not saying there's a side you have to take. Of course it's divisive. How can you criticize John as a Stanford grad for saying, yeah, it kind of divides people? Well, yes, that's why Pete Carroll and Michael Bennett, they don't agree on it.
And I mean,
drives me nuts.
And he said a lot of other things about the locker room. And in the locker room, I think it is a melting pot. And it's, you know, all of us, you know, you have people from all over, different walks of life, religious beliefs, economic backgrounds, and football is all about bringing that together. It's a study of the human condition being inside a locker room. I always said that. Is this divisive? Yes, but no more than a free agent coming in, getting a big contract and not playing well.
Yeah, it is.
No more than someone paying, you know, this starter that you're counting on, and he is not balling out. His head is somewhere else. There are guys, that's divisive in a locker room. There are a lot of different issues guys get bothered by when you spend that much time around one another and you have expectations.
Wars have been fought over racial division, not over bad free agents.
You know what, this subject has to be divisive. It has to be divisive because in order to affect change, you've got to make those that are in a position of power feel uncomfortable. And if they're not uncomfortable, they're not going to change. They'll just keep floating along in life with things the way that they are, okay? I don't like the tone of what John Lynch is purporting here. I don't like it at all, okay? It's okay for them to have their beliefs and their thoughts, but I don't think it's that way. What side of your neck?
Right?
What side of your neck are you talking out of? Because he said one thing over here and said something completely different on the other side.
Well, no, this is what I'm going to get at, and this is what I have to say. If I think if Cap and Marshawn has the right to sit down, if any guy, if Michael Bennett has the right to say what they want to say, then John has the right to say what he wants to say.
Absolutely.
I have no problem with that. Now, the question of this being divisive within the locker room, I don't think so. You're talking about society in a whole. This doesn't tear up a locker room, a guy having some type of
I know the 49ers were terrible last year, but why did Cap get the leadership award? Why did he get all of these things? Why was his teammates backing him if what he was doing was so divisive?
Because they were a terrible team and they didn't care.
Come on.
No, I think in some places it led to dialogue. I think it actually.
I think it did.
Because there are guys that you know how that is. There are guys that you play with that you don't know, and this gives you something to talk about.
Doesn't mean, though, I'm just going to go back to good business for the NFL. And this is where John Lynch can't go all the way there because it's not his job. He wants to be a general manager. He's got to attract players. But in the media, we can go there, and I can certainly go there. This is bad business. I'm telling you. Listen, people, I think we're going to see more fights in the stands than ever before. And it's going to be, there'll be people in the stands. You know what? I'm joining these players, and I'm sitting down. And there's going to be someone drunk in the stands. Why are you sitting down?
But there's going to be someone drunk in the stands all the time.
There will be fights over the national anthem. It'll start in the parking lot. Look, people's expectations used to be, I'm going to a game, it's the weekend, I'm not going to think about anything important. I'm going to go out here and get drunk, I'm going to overeat, and I'm going to watch my team play. Now, we're going to the game, maybe debating Donald Trump and race in the parking lot. Once we get into the stadium, maybe debating the national anthem and the guy in the Kaepernick jersey who's in my face or I'm in his face.
And then the game starts and you pay attention to the game. And what's wrong with having those other conversations and discussions? That's what we need to have.
Let's go back. John Lynch said, I think it's divisive. It is divisive.
No question.
Divisive free agent. Now, are racial divisions worse than free agency? I think they tend to be. Listen, if you talk about race, people get heated.
Very.
More than a free agency.
Yes.
But division in a locker room.
But
Locker rooms are built on conflict.
If you're on this football team and you're buying into we need to win a championship, nothing divides that, because you're there to work, to do what you got to do, and then you leave. Okay.
Let me tell you what divides that. Let me give you real life examples of what divide that. Did you call my girl last night? She told me you called her. That causes division in the locker room. You've seen that.
Right.
Yes.
Racial division, racial arguments. There are things that can break that up. And when you're the coach, you're the general manager, and you want the single focus to be on winning. Hey, man, don't call his girl. Hey, man, let's don't argue politics and race in here, because it potentially can get explosive and lead to real division.
Jason, those are apples and oranges. They're apples and oranges. The players aren't in the locker room debating whether they should stand and protest. Some players don't like it. They don't outwardly condemn their teammates for doing it.
And whether you talk about it or not, it's still divisive. If you are playing with a guy that you know is racist, and I played with guys that we know that were racist, and guys talked about it, and it was one of those things when it wasn't publicly known, you still had that issue. So they're just talking about it.
All right, welcome back. Eric Davis and Seth Joyner are back. Let's move to LeBron James, who has tweeted multiple times this week about the events in Charlottesville, going after President Trump for making hate fashionable again, according to LeBron. LeBron's tweets are part of a growing trend of athletes speaking out about politics, which Kevin Durant says is a change for the better, telling ESPN, quote, "For us to move forward, we need more athletes and people of power and influence to come out and speak. It's huge for us. It's huge for sports. It's huge for the influence we have because we're leaders at the end of the day. It feels good to see my brothers in the NBA and across sports speaking out." All right, Cowherd, our sports have long been an escape from society's problems and deeper issues. Do you still think that's the case?
Yeah, I think to a lot of people. I mean, I cheer watching sports. I have never cheered watching Wolf Blitzer. You know? When I watch sports, there's a real uplifting quality. And as I've aged, I don't really care about the teams. I just like the stories of sports. Politics, to me, take aside, almost always somewhat divisive, right? So, yeah, I mean, I do think there's a large chunk of America. I think we have jobs that are fun. We talk sports. You guys played sports. I think most Americans have really tough jobs, and they don't always look forward on Monday going to work. And I think going to games with a friend, having a beer, is a chance to relax and have a really joyful evening. And I think politics, that's not what it is.
Listen, I think sports has always been a bit of an escape, and then at times not an escape. I think we're at a moment in American history where they're just not going to be allowed to be an escape at all. We are going to talk politics within watching sports moving forward. I think it's already happened in Europe. I think it's already happened in other countries. And again, I was saying earlier in the show about what I think is now going to be more intense fighting and division within fans in a game. We already see it in European soccer. They have massive fights and sometimes deaths at their soccer events, and they have a lot more racism within their stadiums than we have in American sports. And we have some, but they have it to a great degree. I think we're going to see a lot more of that. Some people are celebrating and think, oh, we need to have this, we need to have it. Again, that may be true. I don't think it's good for the business of sports. It'll be interesting how this plays out.
I think it's necessary because if you go back to the 50s, 60s, and 70s, it was the athletes who stepped forward and had a major voice. The 80s, 90s, early 2000s, those voices were hushed, in large part because anti-Semitism, prejudice, white supremacy, all of those ugly things that plagued the 40s, 50s, and 60s kind of had a blanket thrown over them, so to speak. So they weren't out there, but you knew they existed.
You didn't have social media then either.
Absolutely. Well, now that they've reared their ugly head, you know, in the 21st century, it's imperative that these athletes stand up because you know what? They have a platform, they have a voice, and cameras and mics and cell phones and cameras are always in the midst of them, okay? So, like I said earlier, you got to make people uncomfortable, especially those people who are in power. You got to make them uncomfortable to affect change. And the only way that you're going to do that, listen, if I was, Joe Johnson on the street and I had an opinion about the workings, the things that are going on in America, no one would care. No one would care. But because he's Kevin Durant and he's LeBron James, everybody's listening.
Yeah, because they're tall. I'm not sure.
No, because they have a platform.
No, they have a platform. Now, this is the thing. You can talk about what happened in the '60s, the '50s, the '60s, and go the '30s. We can talk about what has happened from a sporting standpoint in the history of this country. There have always been racial problems. There have always been some type of racial divide. But the sporting events were always an escape, and I think they will continue to be an escape, even though these things are being discussed. When King and company were marching in Selma, people were still cheering for their teams, okay? It doesn't matter what's going on. When Black Panthers were having a movement up in the Bay Area, people were still cheering for their teams. Sports are always going to be an escape. The issues that you're talking about, the racial divide that you could see in the stands, it's not like it wasn't there before. It's not like people didn't have certain feelings about different races before.
Here's one of the differences, though. When you talk about Martin Luther King, it wasn't the athletes at the forefront and the face of the discomfort. That, again, your discomfort.
We talk about Ali all the time.
No, I understand in the individual sport, and we're talking about Ali controlled by the Nation of Islam, Ali backed by the Nation of Islam, and Malcolm X. Again, it wasn't just every random athlete. And because, again, a lot of these guys, they're individuals and they're standing on individual platforms. Ali was not. And John Carlos, Tommy Smith really weren't. They were controlled and manipulated by Harry Edwards. A lot of these guys are staying out there on their own, doing the best they can. They're well-intentioned. But again, I agree with you, Seth, in terms, discomfort is good. It's any process, no pain, no gain.
Right.
But in order to have progress, there has to be discomfort and there has to be a win, a root for the other side, for them to feel like, well, there's something good in this for me too. And so with Jackie Robinson, the thing is like Branch Rickey was able to explain, this is going to be good for baseball. This is going to help our bottom line. And that's why people got on board. And they explained that to the rest of society. If you allow African Americans to live free, this is going to be good for America and good for you.
Well, how is it not good for America and good for everyone if everyone's treated equally? And that's all people are talking about. That's the discussion.
No. Eric, you're absolutely right. But treated equally means one thing to you, one thing to him, one thing to me.
Agreed.
There's always disagreement about how you treat everyone equally. It's a lot harder than just to say it. Everybody should be treated equally. But how you do it is hard.
Is it possible that we're overreacting to this stuff? You referenced Jackie Robinson, Ali. I could throw in Billie Jean King. We reference them 40 and 50 years later. We won't reference Marshawn Lynch 50 years from now in this. That in the moment with social media, it feels huge. We were dealing with much greater issues and causes 50 years ago that we still honor and reference today. And sports has only grown. This will not stop the growth of sports. These are issues that need to be discussed. They feel in the moment gigantic. Jackie Robinson was gigantic. Billie Jean King. I remember as a kid, my dad and I argued over Muhammad Ali. That the issues 30, 40, 50 years ago have only added to the drama and the contextualization and the greatness of sports, that they create arguments and growth. And it's incredibly healthy, and that we're overstating these moments.
I hope 40, 50 years from now, you are looking at this and saying that those moments created some change. That you can look to this time.
The problem is, too, though, is that some of those same issues are starting to grow out of the ground again. So they have to be readdressed all over again.
All right, to Nevada, where the State Athletic Commission has decided to allow Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather to fight with 8-ounce gloves, a change that some people think will favor Conor, But McGregor's former sparring partner, Paulie Malignaggi, says Conor has way bigger issues to worry about than glove size.
What he really has to learn is to try to keep it within the rules, because he's a little bit confused as to what he's doing in there. He's a little bit confused, especially on the inside. I think he needs to learn how to keep it clean. He's going to get himself disqualified if he keeps punching behind the head and pushing the head down.
All right, Cowherd, are you concerned that Conor McGregor will get disqualified?
Yeah, I think it's a coin flip. I think it's 50-50. I think it's the only way he can win is to make it ugly. I mean, if this is a skills competition, it's a joke. It's Gretzky against the minor league hockey player. The other thing is, I think McGregor, Jason, has a marginal respect for boxing. What does he care if he dirties it up?
The only question will be what's in the contract. And what, if he gets disqualified, does he forfeit X amount of dollars, all of it, 50% of it, 25% of it? I don't know what's in the contract. But, again, the biggest cliche in boxing is everybody has a game plan until they get hit in the mouth. And once Conor gets hit in the mouth, he's going to toss the game plan, and it's just going to be about survival. That's why Mike Tyson bit someone's ear.
It may be, it may be about survival, but he's not going to get disqualified. I think that's why Floyd's camp was okay with removing one of the refs that he had a history with, that had a certain feel about McGregor. And think about this. You look at Malignaggi right there.
Paulie Walnuts.
Paulie Walnuts, got it. Okay, you look at him, they're already setting up the next fight.
Yeah.
McGregor wants to fight. He's going to make more money boxing than going back in the octagon, so he's not going to get himself disqualified because this would be his last fight.
I don't think the disqualification is the issue. The issue is frustration. And when Mike Tyson chimes in, you're talking about the king of frustration. So frustrated, I'm going to bite your ear off. Okay? So what's going to happen? He's not going to be able to lay a glove on Mayweather.
Thank you.
And by the 4th or 5th round, he's going to become so frustrated, he might tackle him and take him down. He might put him in a headlock. He might leg kick him. He might do anything.
I can hope that happens.
If I laid out...
But that's not going to happen.
If I laid the fight out now, I told you I knew what was going to happen. And I said, it will be utter chaos. Don't you all think McGregor's competitive?
No.
You don't? Chaos doesn't equal that.
If utter chaos would make me say, can't wait to buy the fight. Because, again, right now, you got to understand, they're still struggling selling tickets. Hotels aren't selling in Vegas for what they thought. The prices are coming down. And so they're sending Paulie out here. He's the second, third promoter on this fight. He's a part of the whole promotion of the fight, and he's putting out, oh, boy, this could be crazy. McGregor may have to break the rules. Because, again, this conversation is the one that entices me. And I'm like, Eric, oh, McGregor might lose his mind? That would be awesome. 4th round, he starts wrestling Floyd. That would be awesome.
I wish it
and there are people that hate Floyd so much, they would love to see this dude kick Floyd in the leg and then kick him a couple other places and get disqualified, but at least Floyd would have gotten his and people would love it.
But there's no way McGregor gets to get back in the boxing ring. And McGregor, I don't know. I don't know if anyone's gonna to get
Did Mike Tyson get back in the boxing?
Well, but Mike was a boxer. To get a real boxer in there that can get the draw, you're gonna have to show that you can box. That's why he's not gonna get himself kicked out. He makes more money boxing.